Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today's video, I want to talk about the Game of the Year, and more specifically the Game of the Year nominees, as November's coming up here shortly, and around November, I'm not sure what date, but is when they usually will announce what the nominees are for Game of the Year. Now there's a couple of games that I definitely think that will pretty much is universally, everyone agrees that it's going to be nominated. So I kind of want to talk about the games that I do think are definitely going to be nominated, and then as well as some games that I don't think will be nominated but would be pleasantly surprised if they did. So first up, with the games that I am fairly confident will get nominated, the two obvious ones that pretty much everybody knows is Baldur's Gate 3. I think is kind of a no-brainer. It's universally loved. Almost everyone that's played it has had a blast playing it. Personally, I have not played it yet. I do own it, and my wife has been playing it, and she's been having a great time with it. And I've been watching her play, and it looks generally like a really fun game, and I can't wait to play it. I just have not had any time this year to play that. So many great games came out this year. It's definitely on the list. The other one that I think is a pretty no-brainer is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I personally really enjoyed the game, as well as many people did, so I think that those two are pretty obvious choices. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that they're both the first and second highest rated game this year. Really had a good time with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm one of those few people that I wasn't a huge fan of Breath of the Wild. It just, I don't know, it just something didn't click with me, but I gave Tears of the Kingdom a try, and I absolutely had a blast with it. So I think it is definitely deserving of being on the list. Next game that I do think will be on the list is Resident 4 Remake. I know some people kind of, debate whether remakes and stuff should even be considered on the list. Personally, I'm in the camp that says that they totally should. It's not like it's a remaster. They remade the game. Yes, it's, the same story or whatever. As for someone like me who's experiencing Resident Evil 4 for the very first time, like all of these Resident Evil games, it's the first time I've ever been exposed to it, and so I've had a blast playing them. So I definitely think that it is going to be nominated. I am a big horror genre fan, so Resident Evil 4 and as well as like the Dead Space remake, I think both of those games were fantastic. Personally, I kind of go back and forth between the two depending on the day which one I like more. At the time, I really liked Dead Space Remake. I think they're both great games, but I think if it had to pick one to be on the list, I personally think Resident Evil 4 is better than Dead Space, although I really love Dead Space. Coming in at number 4 on the list, I believe there's 6 nominees. So the fourth game that I really think that will be nominated is Marvel Spider-Man 2. I just finished playing that, and oh my gosh, that game was so much fun. I had a blast. Having Kraven and Venom as the main antagonist was awesome. All the decisions that they made, I had a great time playing that game. Typically with these Game of the Years, it's always like a single player narrative story driven game. Coming in at number 5, I think that Mario Wonder has a very good shot at being Game of the Year. Came out the same day as Spider-Man, which is crazy. I didn't realize how much I missed the Mario 2D platformers until this game came out. Don't get me wrong, Mario Odyssey was awesome. I really loved that game as well. But man, I really missed these 2D platformers from Mario, Super Mario Bros. Been playing a lot with my family. I love that it's 4-player like co-op. And just overall, like, it's been a really fun game. Like, it's not anything different. It's kind of the same formula that they've always used for these Mario games. But at the end of the day, it's just a fun game. It's fun to just sit down and relax and just knock out a couple levels with this game, especially playing with family. Like, this game has been really fun. And coming in at my 6th spot, which I kind of flip-flop between several different games, so I am really not super confident on my 6th choice, but I did end up settling with Final Fantasy 16. I personally had an absolute blast with that game. I love the icon battles. Personally, I'm fairly new to the Final Fantasy franchise. I've only played a couple of their games, but this game is definitely one of my favorites. Clive was really great. All the voice acting was really great. I personally thought the combat was awesome. I loved how you can absorb all these other Titan abilities, and now you have Titan abilities, icon abilities, and so incorporating that into the combat was a lot of fun. Now, like I said, like it could really go either way with my 6th spot, as there's lots of games that definitely could be on that list. Like I know Street Fighter was really good. I personally am not super big into fighting games, but I know it scored really well, and all those people that did play it generally enjoyed the game. So that could definitely, you know, snub out Final Fantasy 16. I think Final Fantasy 16 it's still like a niche game, but I still think it's more broad of a game. More casual players would be drawn to that opposed to Street Fighter, at least in my opinion. Could be totally off on that. The other game that I thought that could have taken Final Fantasy 16's spot, or definitely has a chance to, is Alan Wake 2. Personally, I have not had a chance to play it yet. I'm going through the first game at the moment, and so I didn't really want to jump into the second one quite yet. I wanted to finish the first one, but I've seen some of the reviews and I've seen lots of people talk about it. The game looks like it's been really great. A lot of people love it. Like I said earlier, I'm really big into the horror genre, so this is like right up my alley. So those are my 6 that I think are more than likely going to be nominated. So just real quick, a recap. We got Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Wonder, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Final Fantasy 16. Now, as far as which game I think will win, man, that's a tough one. Personally, my personal game of the year so far has been Spider-Man 2. I think that game has been absolutely incredible, but I do think unfortunately, it's going to come to, I shouldn't say unfortunately, both these games were fantastic, but Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. If I had to choose one, I would definitely give it to Baldur's Gate. Although I haven't played it, I personally didn't like Tears of the Kingdom as much as like Spider-Man and some of these other games here. So I would say for me personally, Tears of the Kingdom is a little bit lower on that list. Still definitely top 5. Now moving on to a part that I am kind of more looking forward to. So here are some games that I think were super great. And for me personally, I actually liked a little bit better than some of the games on this list. The only reason I chose those ones is because those are the ones that I think that most people generally loved. Some of the ones that I put on this list, I'm like, I really enjoyed this game, but I don't think it's gonna get nominated. So here are some of the games that I would be pleasantly surprised if they got nominated, although I don't think they will be. In no particular order. First on my list, I had Lies of P. I personally had an absolute blast. This is definitely one of my top games of the year. This is definitely the closest we'll ever get to like a Bloodborne 2. And as far as like the Souls-like, this is probably one of the games that, like, if I didn't know that this wasn't a From Software game and I was just like a casual player, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is a From Software game. These guys made Elden Ring. So that's how close Lies of P is to a lot of the From Software formula. Still not quite exactly like From Software. They have their own unique spin on things, but man, was this game great. My next list is Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I am not a big Harry Potter fan. I would say I'm a casual enjoyer of Harry Potter, but I'm not like the guy that's going to go out and get all the Harry Potter stuff. I'm not like a huge fan. But I played this game, and man, this game was really fun. I enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed the story. Everything about the game I generally really liked. The open world I thought was great. I think there are some aspects that aren't as good, but overall I tended to really enjoy Hogwarts Legacy. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be better than some of these other games on the list. Like I said, it could knock out Final Fantasy 16. I'm not totally sold on that idea, but overall I thought that Hogwarts Legacy was really great, and like I said earlier, I would be pleasantly surprised if it got nominated. Now, I do think some of these games I do have on my list will potentially get nominated for other categories, just not Game of the Year. Next on my list, which is probably one of my favorite games this year, was Remnant 2. It does have its issues, but man, this game was so much fun to play. I had a blast playing with friends. I loved how they did their procedural generation of like the levels. I thought it was all really well done. The gunplay felt really great. All of the like classes were really fun to mess with, and just overall, like I said, it was just like a fun game to play, especially with friends. We dumped so many hours into this game. Yeah, it does, like I said, it does have its issues and whatnot, but man, was this a banger. Coming up next on my list, I do have Jedi Survivor. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Unlike Harry Potter, I am a little bit biased to the Star Wars properties. I freaking love Star Wars. This game was actually really well done. I loved the story. I loved the combat. I love how they added like the new stances and everything to it. The boss fights were actually really fun, and some of them were challenging, like that Ravis boss fight was freaking insane. I was playing on the highest difficulty, and I got stomped plenty of times. So it was definitely difficult, but also very fun and enjoyable. And then kind of last on my list that I think definitely has potential of being Game of the Year, but I don't think we'll get it, is, or at least nominated, is Armored Core 6. This is actually a From Software title. I have never played any of the Armored Core games before. This is my very first entrance into Armored Core. And it's one of those games that seem a bit daunting at first, but are actually pretty easy to master once you get the hang of it. Like, when I first jumped in, I was like, oh man, look at all these systems. Like, look at all these, like, components and whatnot. Like, it seemed like it was overbearing to me at first. But after about an hour or so, it was like one of those games that it's like hard to get into, but easy to master. Man, but once I got the hang of it, like, this game was so much fun. I enjoyed the boss fight. From Software literally does not miss. All their games are bangers. Fortunately, I think this one is niche enough that I don't think a whole lot of people played it. I think more people played it more than it would have, especially due to Elden Ring. But man, this game was really fun. I would be pleasantly surprised if it gets nominated. I don't think it'll win, but man, this game was so good. So just kind of like a recap, some of the games I think that could totally possibly: Lies of P, Hogwarts Legacy, Remnant 2, Jedi Survivor, and Armored Core 6. I could definitely see any one of those games kind of being mixed in with the Game of the Year. As far as like my actual list, like I said, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Zelda, Mario Wonder, Resident 4 Remake, and Final Fantasy 16. I think those ones have the greatest chance of being nominated. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda, I think, are just no-brainers. I think no matter which configuration of like mixes that you throw at Game of the Year, those two are always going to be on the list. And like I said, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but definitely Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 6 and Alan Wake 2. I personally have not played either of those games, but I heard nothing but great things about them. So I definitely, you could add those to the list as well as something that could potentially be on it. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think will be nominated for Game of the Year. It is coming up November, is usually when we get the announcement of the picks, the nominees. So it'll be very interesting to see what actually gets nominated. But yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think will be nominated, what you guys think will be Game of the Year, what was your favorite Game of the Year, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.